If you're with a narcissist, they can only have a relationship if they're superior to you. What they've done in the idealized stage is treat you as if you're better than them. They got to get that back in balance in their mind. So they got to put you back into the inferior position and reestablish that. So what begins to happen in a relationship after you get through that fantasy stage and there's a discontent that begins to develop is a devaluing stage where disrespect now begins to enter the relationship. Little shots, little lashing out. And so there's increased bouts of anger that begin to happen, verbal abuse, emotional abuse, and that can build into physical abuse, financial abuse, sexual abuse. So the devaluing stage is they are now blaming you for why they're discontent. And they are lashing out at you. Now, they might not do this initially to your face. They might do it to their friends and they call you all kinds of nasty things behind your back. But that will begin to come into the relationship. And there'll be pot shots and all kinds of different things like that that will begin to take place. So then what you find yourself doing is walking on eggshells. Because you know they're irritable now. You know that little things set them off and they lash out. So you're now on eggshells. But what can also happen is both are becoming increasingly discontent with the other. And for the narcissist, their narcissism isn't getting fed now because you're not responding, so they can cheat. They go looking for somebody else to feed their narcissism. And then that means they have to start lying to you. And then as it progresses, so this is a progression. I want you to get that. This doesn't happen all at once. This is a gradual thing. But they begin to tell you less and less. And they begin to become a parasite. So they just basically look to mooch off of you. You're there as their meal ticket to pay their bills, to feed them, to take care of them, and they start to drain you financially and emotionally. They're a leech. And that begins to happen. Then they're still not happy. You're not happy. There's more conflict, more anger, more fear, walking on eggshells, that they start what we call gaslighting. But it basically is they get you to begin to doubt your perception of reality. They begin to get you to doubt yourself, your thoughts, your emotions, how you see things, so that you begin to think maybe you're crazy and you've got it all wrong. And what they're doing is wearing your self-image down so it's lower and lower. So they're bringing you to a zero. So you don't even believe what you see or think or feel. In your world, the only person that you think is seeing it correctly is the narcissist. And so they now have total power over you. You now have zero power, zero self-image, and that is a very dangerous, scary place. But that can happen all the time. What can happen at this stage, before it gets to the more severe stages, is the anger happens. You're walking on eggshells, then you make up and go back to the ideal stage, the honeymoon again. That wears down, and then you have another conflict because nobody's dealing with anything. You have a blow up, and then you go back to the honeymoon stage again. So you start a cycle of unresolved stuff where you have honeymoon, which gets shorter and shorter and shorter, and then blow up, which gets more intense, and then after a while, it just all goes down the drain. So that's the devalue stage. And that can go on for months and months. The third stage is what we call the discard stage or the replace stage. And that basically means they discard you and replace you with somebody else. So they are at this discontent. You're no longer feeding their narcissism. You're no longer being the mirror that they need. So they go and find a new person and they start to groom them. And as they groom them and love bomb them and mirror them, that person just explodes with gratitude and feeds the narcissist all over again. So that is what can begin to happen. And so, a couple things when they're getting rid of you, okay? So first of all, you got to remember that a narcissist is all about their image, okay? So if the relationship's ending, they got to make sure that everybody knows it's not their fault and it's all your fault. So they are now going to the next person that they're grooming, their new partner, and they are doing a total smear of your personality and character. You are the devil in disguise, and they are quite happy to talk about it. Then to your face, they project everything. So you are confronting them and saying, why are you treating me like this? Why are you cheating? What's wrong with me? And they, at first, might not answer you. They give you the silent treatment. But then they might say, okay, you want to know? It's because you're this way, you're this way, you're this way. And they project all of the problems onto you. It's all your fault. And they accuse you of stuff you've never even dreamed of doing. And often it's because they're already doing it themselves, but they're accusing you of what they are doing, but making it sound like you're the one doing it. So that's the projection that they do. And then they start this damage control. So they put stuff on Facebook about how terrible you are, and they put pictures of this new person they're with, and everybody's happy, and it makes them look like the hero again, and they're doing damage control on their image. So that's the 3 parts of the cycle, okay? Now I want to dig into this discard stage a little bit, because many of you have been there, and you know that it is a very, very difficult thing. So I want to come in at 2 angles. So if you are the one that a narcissist discards, okay? So they get rid of you. Usually it's very sudden. It's like flipping the switch. One day we're done. Say that we're done, and they're gone. And usually they move very quickly in with somebody else. It's one relationship to another. They're not ending it with you until they got somebody else set up. Okay? So that is what begins to happen. So yesterday they might have said to you, I love you. Today I hate you. And it's done. So it's a shock for a lot of people. So there's no closure for you. There's no explanation given other than it's all your fault. There's no answering your questions. There's no helping make sense out of that. And so you might beg them to explain silent treatment. No answers given. It is done. And so you're left there. Now, often what happens at this time when they dump you is their beautiful image mask comes off. All of a sudden, they're not able to maintain this wonderful personality, and there's a coldness, a cruelty that comes out, and you see it maybe for the first time. And there's no remorse, there's no concern about your feelings. It's done, I'm gone. Okay, so that's if they discard you. Now the one I want to really focus on is if you discard them. And that is a whole big topic. So if you've been in a relationship with a narcissist, the ideal thing for you to do is to end it and then have no contact. Because you want to know what happens if you allow contact to a narcissist. That means I have another chance. They're listening to me. I can plant a seed in their brain. I can twist their thinking. I have an opportunity. And they will do that. And if they've beaten your self-image down, you'll listen to it. And it will influence you. So, no contact is the ideal. Now, you might be in a place where you can't have no contact because you have kids together. So you have to have some contact. So the term that is used for what your response should be is called be a gray rock. I don't know if you've heard of it, but just stop and think about it. What color are rocks? Gray. So be a gray rock means don't stand out. Blend in. So if they say, how are you doing? You say, fine. They're waiting for you to ask how they're doing, and you don't even ask them how they're doing because you don't care. Because you're not going to give them an opportunity for a second to say one thing that might influence your thinking. So gray rock means do not stand out by saying stuff or asking questions. Be almost unidentifiable to them. What I'd say after being in this field of counseling for the last 15 years, that is very wise advice. I have dealt with many people who've been in a relationship with a narcissist, and they have not been a gray rock, or they have not gotten no contact. And before you know it, the next thing happens. So here's what I want you to get. Giving chase is how a narcissist responds to rejection. If you say no, to them, no doesn't mean no, it means try harder. And so they are going to chase. Now, what they're counting on is a couple of things. Number one, once you've said no, if you've not dealt with your own shame, after a couple of weeks, you're going to start to miss them. And you're going to feel lonely. And you're going to feel all your shame issues coming up. And then what's going to happen? Your mind's going to go back to, not to the discard stage, not to the devalue stage, but to the fantasy idealized stage. And you're going to say, oh, they were so loving. They had such a good heart. There was a beautiful person in there. If somebody would just love them enough, it would come out. And you start missing them. And guess what? They show up with a text saying, how are you doing? And it's back on. So you know what the word hoovering means? Hoovering's a vacuum cleaner. So this is a technical term in narcissistic relationships, and it just means that when you say no to them, they're going to try to suck you back in. And they're going to go back to love bombing you, mirroring, being super nice, charming, bringing flowers, sending the most beautiful texts in the world, all kinds of things. Now, what happens at this stage is what we call dosing. They don't go fully back to the idealized stage. They just give you enough dose of it to make you think that they are serious about changing this time, so that they get another chance. Guess what? Mr. Hoover just sucked you back in. And the vacuum cleaner worked. So the dosing is basically to get past the current crisis. So what they see is you saying, we're over breaking up. They don't see that at the end. It's just, we're having a few problems. We're in a bit of a crisis here. I better change my game for a little bit to get us past the crisis so that they want to be with me again. Now, a lot of people who haven't realized that they're with a narcissist, they keep believing Mr. Hoover and all of his tricks. And they get sucked in again, and then they get devalued again and discarded again, and then another crisis, and he hoovers you again, and you get sucked in again, and it just goes round and round and round until you finally clue in, this is a narcissist. This is not some little boy who just needs somebody to love him. This is a sick person who is refusing to look at his stuff. He changes just to get past the crisis, and then he goes back to the other thing, which is the real him. The masks come off again. And so that is the normal pattern that takes place. So rule number one is, if you've rejected a narcissist, because they continue to devalue you, discard you, don't take them back. As soon as they hoover you and you take them back, you've trained them that their hoovering will work the next time. You're training them that your no doesn't mean no. And it's only going to be more difficult the next time. And so what I tell people this all the time: don't say no to a narcissist. Don't say it's over to a narcissist until you have the backbone to stick to it. Because if you say no but don't have the backbone and he can hoover you back in, you are making it worse for yourself. Secondly, test boundaries, or test if they keep boundaries early in the relationship. If he doesn't respect your boundaries or she doesn't respect your boundaries early in the relationship, huge red flag. Because if they don't respect your boundaries then, they're not going to respect them once you're in a committed relationship. So if they break boundaries, don't move the line in the sand. Don't say, if you hit me one more time, I'm done. That's my line in the sand. And then they hit you again and you say, I'll give you one more chance. Don't do that. If they don't respect your boundaries, they never will. Shame works on your limbic brain. Guess what a codependent relationship is about? The limbic brain. What is a narcissist about? The limbic brain. You have to go to your cortex brain and say, what are the facts about this guy? My limbic brain says I'm still in love. He's saying I'm changed, I'm changing, and he's giving me all these gifts and nice things, and he's making me feel in love. My limbic brain is on fire. But let's shut that down. What are the facts? This guy hasn't respected my boundaries. This guy continues to disrespect me. This little hoovering thing always gets dropped and he goes back to the way he is. Those are the facts. I'm going with facts, not with my feelings. And that is so hard to do, but so very important to do.